Amos Part 1, and got a lot of explaining to do in this one. This one's a little bit more difficult. I did some setup to begin with, and I wanted to bring up this image here to try to show some what the text is saying and then what it's not going to say. The visions of a prophecy through Amos, his vision concerning Israel in the days of this guy here, Uzziah, and he is our king for Judah, okay? In the days for Jeroboam, a son from Joash, the king for Israel. Now, this is not true, and I'm going to explain why. First of all, as you see the blue lines are the descendants, okay? Now, here, oops, excuse me, is Jeroboam, Rehoboam. Now this is when our Creator decided to divide the two kingdoms, Judah and Israel. So Judah is on, I would say, your left side, and Israel over here on the right. Now Jeroboam is a descendant from David, okay? Now, the thing here is the text is saying two things. One, Jeroboam is a son from this guy here, Joash. Now let's go find Joash. Whoops, wrong one. This one. Joash lives down here. Okay, and he's some 50 years, 60 years later, and yet here is Jeroboam. So the text isn't right, and he is only a king, Jeroboam, when Rehoboam and then Asa, excuse me. So this here is wrong. This here is wrong. So I'm going to make that highlight. Now I'll correct the text later because we need to find out at what time this story is. Okay, now what we have is started with is one verse here. Now they're trying to make it into a 3-verse, but the object here is those just aren't true text. We don't know for sure who is among the shepherd. No, a prophet is a male virgin, okay, or 90% of them. So they also had attendants working for them or with them once they became a prophet. Now, what's weird about this one is that we have 3 verses, and we have 3 verses here. Now we have 4 verse, okay? And if I tried to make this 2 years before the earthquake, now we have 3. And then we have 3 more here. Now, I did some correcting on some verbiage of the words. Like I was trying to explain to you, each word is specifically has a certain meaning in the Hebrew language. And when it talks about ground, they're talking about beneath the surface. The land that they see is the surface. So the herders pastures, yeah, I guess that needs a apostrophe S. Pastures land will mourn. Now, that's just stupidity, okay? And the summit, which is the peak of Carmel, this is a mountain, will dry up, meaning the snow-capped mountain will dry up. Now, neither of those happened, and this is just not true. So let's start getting rid of things that aren't true. From Jerusalem he utters his voice. No, in a vision he tells them what to say. So when YV roars from Zion, which is Jerusalem, or his Mount Zion, from above Mount Zion, Mountain Zion, nobody's going to hear. I mean, if he's wanting us to hear him, he's going to appear as a cloud or fire, as we know he has. Now, when this is not really true either. Our Creator does not roar. Now, I could change this word here, but this is not true. And from Jerusalem he utters his voice. This is not really true. Okay? And now we have the prophecy. Okay? Thus says YV, for the 3 transgressions of Damascus, and for the 4th, they just had the number 4 here. I will not revoke is stop. I will not stop because they threshed Galeed. Now, Galeed, where is that? That is in, let's see, I think it's, let me get this map out now. Galeed, I think, is someplace in here because it is where the king went and asked his seer, or his holy man, holy male, to come and look at the people that are going to enter into Moab, to curse them. And he went to 2 different places, and one was Galeed, and the other one was Shishim. Okay, because they threshed Galeed with the sharp iron. Now these are sharp swords, okay, but that's how you kill people. So for the 4th, and this is the 4th, I will stop because he threshed Galeed with a sharp iron. Now, how else do you conquer land? Okay. I will also set fire upon the house of Hazel. Now, this guy, I'm not sure who he actually is. I think, I should have looked it up. When, let's see, after David had conquered the land, okay, I'll use this map here because you got to understand Damascus is way up here. Can you see Damascus? No, it's right above my pointer here is Damascus. You can see the red line going up to Damascus. Now, here, the thing here is when David conquered the land, somebody and went up and I don't think his mother or his wife took his youngest son. They fled to Egypt, and then he come back to rule Damascus as a thief, like a leader of thieves. Later, he established it as his as a kingdom, and I think his sons ruled next, and that would be this guy here. Okay, so here we have our Creator talking about because of this action, He's going to send fire on the house and consume the fortress, not citadels, fortresses, for Ben-Hadad. Hadad. Anyways, and I will break the bars of Damascus and kill off the inhabitants. Well, this never happened. Okay, he did not never kill off the inhabitants. Nobody did. Now, when Assyria come down and conquered them, yes, they took them away, made them captives, but they still didn't get rid of all of them. He didn't kill all of them. They were. You got to understand, Assyria was collecting people to work in their fields and keep the produce coming into the cities. And then the Valley of Avon, and who holds the scepter in here. Now, there's a scepter means a king is holding it. In this place, we really can't dictate where these places are at. I know that when you go on Google search, the Bible programs, they got all kinds, because all they do is say, well, the stories are around this area, boom, they put a dot and they say it's there. And yet most of those places, when they're saying they're a fortress, mean that they have the guard towers. Those would have been built out of rock or blocks of granite, something stable, because it was representing the doorway as you came in, and they needed to go up and down. But the fortress itself would have been made out of wood. Those they have found, but they aren't finding these, all these places. And you'll notice that I guess these are 2 verses, these are 2 verses, then you got 3 verses, you got 3 verses. So if I cut this one off, because this one looks like it's stuck in there, because actually those would have made a 4 verse, and then we would not have 4 verses here. So the people of Aram will go exiled to Kir. Now, where is Kir? Well, Kir is, I believe it's in this area here, okay? Now, to be exiled from here to here is not much of an exile. It's 90 miles, maybe 100 miles, okay, from here to here. Well, who was here? Well, that's one of the tribes. I mean, this is the tribe's land. So did David bring them down? Never happened. This never happened. So here, if this is not true, never was true, how can the rest of this be true? Because our Creator is saying the transgression was just killing them with the sword. Well, I'm just getting rid of all this because it makes no sense why our Creator would do such a thing when he's already took Damascus over by David, and David didn't send anybody to Kir, okay? He did make them pay tribute to him, okay? And that means that until then, from David's time, he did not kill them off, okay? So that is supposed to be a prophecy, okay? Now, the funny thing is, our Creator starts again for the 3 transgressions of Gaza, and the 4th, I will not stop. Now, that's how I had it divided last time, but you now see I have 3 or 4 verses here. Now, where is Gaza being told at? Now, Gaza, let's see. Gaza is supposed to be over here or down over here. I have it located way down here, okay? Because after David conquered the Promised Land, or took more of the land. Let's see. Let me see. I believe I have a map. Yeah, let me show you this one. When David came through, he pushed them out. Okay, here, I have Gaza here. Okay, here is Gaza. All right, now David had conquered them and pushed them below this river. This river is named the River of Egypt, which, if you listened to me before, this becomes the border for Egypt during when the Assyrians or when Babylon come down and captured Judah here. That's what they did. They took the land until Egypt. So this was the line for Egypt. But they pushed them down, or took their land over, and down here is where they were living. But David already got rid of them all. Okay, that's yeah, I have this one here. This is showing the land reconquered by David. Okay. Well, it actually goes down a little bit farther. Let me. Yeah, this one here is the full story here. Okay, here's the river of Egypt here. But you can see David went down and conquered all this, and then it got divided. All right. But I want to get back to the text, because here they deported. It says, I will not stop because they deported an entire population to deliver up to Edom. Well, I could make that a 3 verse if I population to Edom. Okay. Now, who deported them over to Edom? Because Edom wouldn't want them. Edom is Hebrews, Esau's descendants. They wouldn't want pagans that are fighting with their brothers over there. So, see, when did the Philistines do this? Because David, you remember, Joshua come in and they kicked him out. That was, I gotta come back up to here and say, because the timeline of this text is really bad, okay? Because it's talking about this time here. But here, whoops, let me go up a little bit farther. Joshua had cleared off the promised land, okay? And then there's these 300 years that are missing until we get to Eli. But the Philistines came back, but there's no story about them really conquering. All they did was took over the Judah off the coastline. And then Saul is when he starts fighting with the Philistines, and he does push them away. He goes in there, and I think he does the slaughtering of women and children as well, because they're pagans. When you read and you say, oh, I feel sorry, why would our Creator kill infants too? The thing here is you got to understand, these people were having sex with each other, animals, and this is the distortion that these people are. They're just sick. So our Creator killed them all, okay? That's why he told them to kill the animals, okay? They were defiled. This is what's called about the defilement of the land, okay? Now here, David is doing all this conquering, but all of a sudden here we have them talking about what these guys did, and they didn't, because they were already conquered. So the text is not making truthful sense here of anything. Now I'll consume her fortresses, and okay, now see these 3 places here, okay? Let me bring this map back up. Here they are, 1, 2, 3, and then Gaza, okay? So these 3 were at the Philistines' time when David was around, but they were all gone by then. So what is our Creator got him saying here? I will cut off the inhabitants from these places. They're already gone. They can't be done. And the remnant will perish, will die. No, they did die, but they were pushed down. So this text, all this text, is not truthful neither. None of it is. Okay? So we move on to the next prophecy, and it starts over again. Same words. The only thing is I have to put this and say if I do a 3 verse like the last one, or leave it like a 4 verse like the first one, then we have 3:3, and this is stuck out nowhere. But if I take this and say, okay, now this is 3:3:3, and I don't know where I'm going to hook this. So if I sit here and say, listen, we need that, there's no way to get rid of these 4, okay? So there's no format to match them here. Now, because, and this is Tyre. Now Tyre, I know I don't have that location, but that's up in Lebanon, okay? Let me see something here. Do I have, because I was on the net here. Okay. And what I do is I usually put Tyre and I put Bible. And then I need maps or images. Okay. Let's try this one here. See, here's Lake Galilee, and this is Lebanon up in here. Okay. So here it is up in Lebanon. Now this doesn't make any sense. Why would our Creator be speaking about way up there? I mean, they were all pagans. Now, because they delivered the entire population to Edom, who did they deliver? Okay, our Creator, usually the text is very precise in what's going on. Because they delivered up an entire population to Edom. Now, why would that guy way up there come, or the king from that area, come all the way down? Now, that is what, let me see here. From here to here has got to be at least 40 miles. And then to send them down, let's use this map. This, that's not really good. But the object is down here. They're sending them here, which is another 90 miles, 100 miles down to here. Now, why would they send them down to there? For what reason? I mean, the text has to make sense, and this does not make sense either. Because what we're hearing about is 3 transgressions, but we don't know what they are. And the 4th we still don't know, unless it is this one, and that's what I've been saying it is. But the object is how is that a transgression? Okay, I just don't, because they did not remember the covenant of the brotherhood, or the ties to them being brothers. So it depends on who they sent to understand why they went to Edom, and who are the brothers from this guy. I mean, they're not Hebrews up there. Well, I can't say that for sure, because you have to understand that that when they talk about where Shem's land is, which is the first son from Noah, they say it's way over there above the Euphrates rivers. You got to cross the Euphrates rivers, and they are not small. In fact, you'd have to, I think, cross the Tigris River too. Those are not small. Right now they need a bridge made out of brick, and I think they have like 4 of these great big things holding up so cars can go over them today. But the object is that that was not the truth either in the Bible. When Isaac sent Jacob to Shem's land to get a wife, Do you think they sent a 14-year-old boy 1,000 miles by himself? No. But what the story is when he's returning, he passes the rivers, and then our Laban tries to chase after him. But because he's passed the rivers, means he has a certain safety that he can't do injustice in another area. So, what am I talking about? Let me get the. Okay, excuse me for a second. Here's a picture of the river to cross like the Euphrates. And then this is how I've got the land divided up. And these are the rivers that were passed, because we know this is the Canaanites area, or Canaan's area, and they took over a lot of Japheth's land. So when they talk about who the Philistines are, they're actually descendants probably from Japheth. Okay, so they actually don't know what a Philistine is or was back in the day. These are Noah would have had to land here. Shem would have had to, being he's the oldest son, he gets the land. So the other brothers just came down here. Canaan took this land. Japheth took this land. Okay, and these are the rivers. So that when it talks about going to Shem's land for a 13 or 14-year-old boy, this is only a matter of maybe 20 miles to go into here, maybe Laban. And that's nothing but maybe 1 day's walk fast, 2 days walk fast, or 2 days walk. Depends on how many times you have to go up and down the hill and take a rest. Because this is nothing but hill country here, okay? Now, to understand that truth, and now we come back to the story, that these would have been from Shem's, which would have been this brotherhood, but what population? Where did this guy send who to define this? Because Edom exists after, or this would have been, if Edom, if this would have been true, when they did this, you got to understand they weren't Hebrews yet, as far as they were all Hebrews in that area. Excuse me, they were all Hebrews in this land. So how did they do an entire population of Edom? It doesn't make any sense. And there were no fortresses at this time. They didn't know how to build fortresses. In fact, for scaffolding, for putting up towers like on fortresses, they did not know how to do, because it was until Solomon's time that they needed help from the king from Lebanon, and how to cut the wood, how to make this scaffolding so they could build the house for our Creator. If this is way before it, when they're in Egypt, when Israel's sons are in Egypt, so when you try to put a time on this, there is nothing here. I mean, fortresses aren't true. Upon the walls of Tyre, this is so far out of the way that, again, I'm just getting rid of it. Now we have here again, okay, the starting off, and it's a 4-verse, and now we have 4-verse, now we have 2-verse, and then we have another prophecy. So this prophecy here, what is this saying to us? Well, now we're talking about Edom, okay? Because he pursued his brother with a sword, well, he had strifled his compassion. His anger tore continually, and he maintained his fury forever. Well, this is not true, because, example, when Jacob came back to live with his brother, he sent part of the flock, he divided them into two, sent them in case Esau was going to kill him. But Esau greeted him as his brother, and they lived together. So he maintained his fury forever is absolutely not true. His anger was continually, no, it had subsided. Did he pursue his brother with a sword? No, this is not true. So I don't care what's left here. This is not even true. It's being made up. Now we've got another one of these beginnings. I will not stop. But notice, because of their 4, now we have 3, 3, and now we have a whole bunch. Okay, do you see that whole bunch? Yes. Okay. Now here it says for the sons of Ammon. Okay. Now who are they? And here is that city that he prophesies from. Now this, I can show that, I guess, when I show, or I can tell you. Okay, but here, now here is Ammon's, okay? They were conquered when they came in. They no longer exist. They've been gone since they come into the promised land, okay? Because here, the story talks about them going and conquering this land here, up to here, okay? And it might have been to the mountains or something like that, which would have been up to here. But the object is, I think it was from river to river, because anyways, this is Ammon here. Now that Galilee, that was down here, okay? That's located in Moab. And then, what was the other one? Let's start with an R. Reba. Reba is where they went and fought to keep this land. And Reba is someplace in here, I believe, on this side of the river, because they were battling here. No, it might have been over here, because the stories just give a location up in here, but they're all gone at this time because they went into they killed them, they slaughtered them, they took off, okay, at the promised land time. So where was the sons of Am? They were dead, okay? And because they enlarged their borders and they killed these women in this area, but that isn't true. Moab kept their land until, that's how Moses went in and took care of one king and then went and took another king. In fact, your Bible has Bashan as a kingdom in there, and it went through there. But when you look for Bashan, and actually when you understand the description of when Moses does go into the promised land, Bashan is not there, okay? So all this, I don't care what's written here. This is, they're gone. Why punish whatever's left there? They'd be punishing the tribes, okay? So I doubt that that's true. Now we get back to Moab again, okay? Because he burned the bones of the king of Edom. There's no story in the text that was happened, okay? And Moab will die amid a tumult of cries and trumpets. They already had died. They had done this already. This has already happened. Moses did this. So, you getting my point here? Now we have another prophecy, okay? And this prophecy is about Judah, okay? Now we finally got to the very beginning where this is maybe true, okay? Because they rejected the law of Creator and not kept his statutes. Now wait a second. That didn't happen until they fell. Okay, let me show you this, because I've done a lot of studying. Okay, as you can tell, I can walk around all this text at any time I want here. So Oh, supposedly it's at this time. Israel's the one that fell away. Israel's the one that's the idiots. I mean, Jeroboam, the first thing he did was to set up a false altar in Bethel and named it the capital for Bethel. So here, if we change the word to Israel, oops. Now we know that it's got to be the kingdom Israel. So I make them bold. For the 3 transgressions, they wouldn't have been transgressions when they left, because if they went on to another god, that's a sin. Okay, so it's not a transgression. And for sins, they were his enemies because they rejected the law. They rejected the commandments. They rejected the statutes. Their lies have led them away, and after their forefathers, those after their fathers walked. So I will send fire upon who? It has to be Israel and not Judah. And it will consume the fortresses for Jerusalem. No, this would have been Bethel, if anything, because at this time they really hadn't built up. The capital city was Bethel because that's where Jeroboam had set up his capital. Much like Jerusalem is the capital for Judah. So we know that this here is wrong. And when you look at this text, I will send fire upon Israel and consume a building, a fortress. Is that punishment for sin? No, our Creator wipes them out. So this here, this is stupid. Okay, now here's another one. Okay, and I think this is where I wanted you to. I didn't know if I was going to get this far in the first hour. Now for the 3 transgressions of Israel. Now because that's what we found up here. But 3 transgressions for Israel, and the 4th he will not stop, puts it at a 4 verse. Because they sell the righteous for money and the needy for a pair of sandals. Really? Really? They sell the needy. Okay, who's the needy? They would have needs. They aren't orphans unless they have orphans here. Okay, they sell orphans for a pair of sandals, but that is stupid. Okay, because they can make their own sandals. That's what they used to do. So, and those who pant after the very dust of the earth, that's idiot talking. That is not true. On the heads of the helpless, turn aside. What's happening on the head of the helpless? The very dust of the earth on the head of the helpless. I don't know. Turn aside the way of the humble. What is their way of life for the humble? How do you turn them aside? Okay. They found for a male, this is male, and his father resort to the same girl in order to profane his name. Now, how can you profane your name by screwing the same girl? I don't get this. This is supposed to be our Creator speaking. How does this profane his name? Okay, so this is just some idiot babbling on here that's not making any sense. So what we've got here is nothing to match a 4 verse. And on garments taken as pledges, they search out beside every altar. Now this actually doesn't hook together, does it? They search out beside every altar because they stretch out beside every altar. Now, this is in Jerusalem, not Israel. Okay, excuse me. So in the house of their creator, it would have been their creator, and it wouldn't have been every altar. There was only one altar in that he had designed to copy the one in Damascus. So they stretch out beside the altar. Okay, well, it's trying to tie that together. Okay. In the house of their creator, they drink wine. Really? And our creator's gonna complain about a pagan church? I mean, anyways. And those who have been fined, they drink the wine of those who have been fined. So it must be that they had to capture their wine from them. But what the hell is this about? I mean, we've got our creator is talking stupid things here. Now I can't say they didn't do these. This is hard to explain, so let's get rid of that. This here, it wouldn't matter what they were doing. It was a pagan place. Big deal what they're doing there. Our creator hated them. In fact, let's see, I think it was because at some time they went, see, this is when Samaria started, so at some time between here and here, I think it was Rehoboam that went to challenge this idiot for building up this altar, and they had really kind of tore it down, or he couldn't defend it. So that was the end of that story. But the object is this here for Israel. Our creator went and captured the city, okay, and at least tore down everything to start with. And actually, when I'm thinking about it, there at the time when Jeroboam come back to see his altar as he was going up to it to make an offering, a prophet from Judah had came to him and prophesied, and he said, because he said that the priest's bones will be burnt on this altar. Now that's the prophecy that became true. 100 years later, Jehu did that. He went and dug up the bones and put them on the altar and burned them. He went around and cleaned up Israel. He was killing them all over the place. So these priests and the diviners and the sorcerers and whoever was onto another god, he killed them. Now here, the Amorite, what the heck? They've been dead already. So they were dead. They had long gone. This doesn't even matter what that is. Destroying the fruit above, big deal. And it was I who brought you up from the land of Egypt, led you into the wilderness 40 years, that you take possession of the land of the Amorite. Actually, it was Canaanites' land. Then it was the Philistines' land. Okay? And then when they went upwards, it was actually 5 brothers that kind of ruled over the rest of the promised land that they took over. So who are these Amorites? They weren't there. Okay? You really have to know the text to sit here and say that this stuff is just nothing but crap. But it is full of nothing. So here we now have text that says, then I raised up some of your sons to be prophets. He didn't raise them. Well, maybe he did. He sent them, and they were prophets. And some of your young men to be, these are supposed to be male virgins. And they didn't drink wine, and they were to be drinking. They made them drink wine. Now watch this part. And you commanded the prophets, saying, you will not prophesy. Now this didn't happen until, let me get this out here. This didn't happen until down here, okay? This guy went and chased a prophet all the way into Egypt and had him killed. Brought him back and had him killed. So this is when they started killing the prophets, okay? Now they could have killed the prophets over here on this side, but we don't have a lot of text that tells us who they killed and whatever. But when you look, the capital letter means these are good kings, and a letter like this, not a good king. And here's Jehu that I told you, and he burnt the bones on by Jeroboam's temple that he had made. So then his son was good, and then his sons behind him were evil. But the object is that when you study the text, some of this doesn't mean anything here. Saying, you will not prophesy. Behold, I weigh down you. I am weighted down beneath you, as a wagon is weighted down when filled with sheaves. Now these are the bundles of wheat or things like that. I think in America we would call them corn when they would have cut them down, dried them out with the husk on them, and that would have been long ago. They've got machinery that strips everything off now, but if this is sheaves of wheat, then this is the wheat that's not taken off the ends, that they're going to cut them and then they're going to take care of it later. Like, yeah, that's going to be the more proper understanding, more truthful. Because I'm trying to figure out here what's going to be done to them. It's because of this, not prophesied, because this didn't happen until later. This is not, we know he raised up prophets. This is him talking to Israel. Okay, so we need to keep an eye on this text, Israel. Okay, but yes, wait a second. If we're talking about Israel, then yes, maybe we start having some text that's real here, because it would have been in through here, although it's talking about the prophet from this time. Let me get up here. We're talking about a prophet from this time. Okay, I just need that put in my mind, because when I'm reading it, because Omar, I think is going to be brought up in this text here. Is this not so? The sons from Israel declares YV. But you made Nazareth drink wine, and you commanded the prophet, you will not prophesy. That's a 3-verse. That's as good as you can get for a 3-verse. That's why I was trying to make this a 3-verse. But if I put this up here like that, and we have to have our creator declaring, so those two have to be there. But see, that's going to be grabbing 2 of these. So we'd have to go up here and go like this and say this one is the wrong one. Okay. And then we have 3-verse, 3-verse. Who's being, hold, I'm way down beneath you as a wagon away full of sheaves. Who is this? Who is this? Is our creator speaking? Well, he would be speaking here. It'd have to be changed that they weigh down the people beneath them, the lesser people. You made the Nazarenes drink wine of command, saying, do not prophesy. This doesn't make any sense. It's not tied to the prophecy correctly. Flight from death. Flight will perish from the swift. And the stalwart will not have strength enough in his power, nor the mighty male save his life. He who grasps the bow will not stand his ground. The swift of foot will not escape, nor who rides the horse save his life. This, we have no 3-verse. Even the bravest warriors will flee naked in that city, declares YHVH. Now he's declaring twice. He's declaring up here and he's declaring down here. And yet the stories don't hook. These, even if this weird verse says, okay, it works, it's not tying together here. So there's nothing here to tie with this. And it doesn't tell us that day what's going to happen. It doesn't say anything here, so that is out. And then this one here would be out. We don't have anything to say when this is going to happen. Can't say it didn't happen, but can't use it. It doesn't tell us the story of what we need to know to place it with and where and how. I mean, you need to, I need information to the story, and I know the stories. So the thing here is this has to match up with the story. Now here it's going to be against Israel again, against the entire tribes, which he brought up from Egypt. Now hear this prophecy. YHVH has spoken against the sons from Israel. Now this is sons from Israel, so this isn't the kingdom of Israel. Against the entire family, okay, against everybody. He brought them up from the land of Egypt. Only you have I chosen among all the families of earth, therefore I'll punish you for all your iniquities. Now, they weren't. What time would you be punishing all of them? Where Judah was good, Israel was the one that was idiot. Then Judah then turned away later, after Israel had gone. I mean, at the ending, yes, it talks about prophecies that, yes, they're starting to do the same thing that they'd done in Israel. But where is this at? And it's not ground, it's land. This would be troubles, and it's pretty much our creators causing the troubles. Yeah, has that wifey done it? Okay. You know, B, see this text here. And I would have to say, here, this prophecy. From YV. Oops, that would be like that, not like that. Hear this prophecy against the sons from Israel. And this, because he was a good guy. And this is him more or less talking. I'm trying to find out when the prophecy now wait a second. These guys are already gone here again. Okay. David took care of them, took them out. So this is not true. That is not really true either. Assemble yourselves on the mount. This is hills. Hills. And it would be 4 because it's a fortress. Hills by, I guess. And see the great tumults within her and the oppressions in her midst? I don't think so. Why would they gather themselves to see great tumults within her? There were great sins in the city. Great sins. Within, change it to her to it, within it to mean here. And the oppression in, I'll put its, I don't want to put a deity on an object, just like people say Mother Earth. They're putting a deity on that. No, our Creator made everything. But all this, I don't see anything being tied. Sons of Israel. He brought you up from Egypt. Only you has he chosen among all the families of earth. Therefore he will punish you for all your iniquities, or all your sins. He was worried about sinning. You need a sin offering to be forgiven. Otherwise you're his enemy. All your sins. And unless they made an appointment, does a lion for us when he has no pray. All this den was. I guess I'm not seeing what all these things are tied to. Except for that he would be wagging his finger at him, and this is not our creator speaking yet. Okay. Now, this, I'm going to have to go up here and say, this is him speaking, so I'd have to change all this text to mean he and not our creator speaking. Okay. But we finally got some text, but I don't see where it's going. Unless he reveals. Unless he reveals. It's not a secret counsel, because when he does, it's to his prophets. Reveals it, even though I don't like using the word it would be meaning his word to his prophets. Whoops. Trying to make it smaller. YHVH does nothing unless he reveals it to his prophets, and then they're told. This I just don't see this having anything of an importance. But who can prophesy? Well, that's eashoo again. That's no. Okay, it's over an hour, and I'm struggling here, but I'm thinking that this is a lot of gibberish about what? We're not seeing a prophecy yet. And then it says he has spoken, but it's not a prophecy. But who can understand this prophecy? Sorry, that just came to mind. Okay, maybe we have something here, but I'm going to continue. I'm going to clean up this and start here. And I'm going to start right here. So but that's going to be it for this start, and I don't think we got anything really except for just that. Yeah, there's nothing here except for this beginning. Okay, and this needs cleaning up, but okay. When I get back on the next one, we'll start right here, cleaning up, go over it, and then start to find what he is prophesying about.